Good morning, friends. It's good morning in America. It's good afternoon here in South Africa. Welcome to my digital platform. Today, I've invited about 4 of South Africans who are living in America in various states. We just want to have a sense of how things are going on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. So the interview will be about 60 minutes long. It's not going to be a heavy interview. I just want us to have informal discussions. We won't say anything that will put any of you in danger, with respect to the host country. We must make sure that we respect where you guys are. We don't want to see you, evicted from that country. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, everybody. Right. Good morning.
Good morning. Just waiting for 2 other guys, but I've just, said we're going to have this 60-minute discussion. It's a really informal type of discussion, very light-hearted kind of discussion. For the past few days, I've been dealing with issues of COVID-19 via this platform, but focusing on the South African situation. But it's important that we not only look at what's happening in South Africa, we also look at what's happening beyond South Africa. So I invited a number of you guys who are based in the US, in various states. Just to kickstart the discussion, when I looked at the stats of this COVID-19 in the US, I picked up that the US is actually the #1 in terms of the number of cases to date, long surpassed the numbers for China and also for Italy. Yesterday, there were about 161,000 people who have tested positive, and overnight, there were just about 17,597 new cases. The deaths to date are almost 3,000 at 2,968. And there were 385 deaths overnight. Now, that obviously means, the country is battling with the pandemic, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. But when we compare it with what's happening in Italy, Italy has got just about 101,000 people are positive, 4,050 new cases, 11,591 deaths, and 812 new deaths, that is overnight. So, so Italy has got more deaths, but in terms of positive people, the USA has got the most number of positive people. Now, so just to kickstart this then, I'm gonna ask you friends that are already here to just introduce yourselves to my viewers, so I will start with, I'll start with Amanda to just introduce herself and tell the viewers who she is, why is she in the US, before we get to specific questions, around, that are specific to her.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Amanda Otta. I am based in Vineland, New Jersey, which is the southern part of New Jersey. It's about 2 hours away from New York, and we're actually 30 minutes away from Philadelphia and 40 minutes away from Delaware. So I'm a professor, and I'm also a satellite manager for Wilmington University. And I reside in my home with my husband and the 2 kids. One of them actually started college last year, and he had to come back, I think 2 weeks ago from college. So now they're doing everything via Zoom, and their classes are taking place, and they actually log in at the same time that they would be taking classes on campus. Oh. So I'm originally from South Africa, of course, yes. Yeah. And I've been in the United States for too long, 21 years. But anyway, wow. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
welcome everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Consul General, can you just tell us about yourself, just for those people who don't know you?
Okay, my name is Thandile Babalo Sunduza. I'm the South African Consul General in the USA. I'm a diplomat here. I've been here for the past 3 months. And I'm actually from South Africa, from Soweto, born and bred there. And I'm dealing with the west side of the United States. And yeah, that's it.
We actually
All
met
right.
at the Presidential Investment Conference last
Really?
year. Yes, and we spoke, and I have your contacts. Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a small world, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Africa, can you just tell our viewers who you are, your relation to me, and why are you in the US?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, my name is Afika. So my dad is Fundila. So yeah, he reached out 2 days ago to ask if I could join. So I'm living in a state called Massachusetts, which is about 4 hours out.
Can you lift up your voice, Fika?
So I'm living in a state called Massachusetts, which is about 4 hours away from New York. So the reason I came to the US was for study. So I'm I just turned 25, so I came for my university. I just finished my bachelor's degree about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now that at least we know each one of you, you know, why you're there, there's 2 other friends that are still to join us, Chris from New York, and also Spongile, Zulu Princess. Also, she's in New York, but I'm sure they will join us.
I think Spongile just joined.
Oh, well, I can't see her. Where is Spongile? All right.
Spongile,
Hey, Zulu Princess.
unmute yourself.
I can't see her.
Can anybody see her? I can see her.
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
see.
I can.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Spongile. All right. Spongile. All right. I think she must still sort out her technical issues. Just to kickstart the discussion then. But when they come in, I'll allow them, you know, to introduce themselves. Amanda, I'll just call you Amanda. Can I just do away with Prof
Sure,
and Doctor?
sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So at the beginning of the discussion, I just mentioned that US seems to be facing a serious challenge as far as this COVID pandemic is concerned. It's got the most number of people who are COVID-19 positive, and the number of deaths are actually increasing. So I just wanted to, you know, get your sense of how is, you know, the country responding to the pandemic, and just, you know, just to make sure that we are all okay. Let's not say anything that will get you guys, you know, evicted from the US, but just talking in general.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Doc, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So there's a heavy lack of resources because, you know, this is just my personal opinion, and also some aspects also say so, that we really didn't, you know, accept, you know, this pandemic early enough. And that's why the rise of the cases and also, you know, people testing positive, because we didn't start testing on time when this, you know, pandemic started. So, and we also lacking so many resources, like, you know, the face mask, you know, the suits for the healthcare providers. I mean, just a simple example right here at University of Penn. On Sunday, they just announced to all the healthcare workers that this is an Ivy League university, that they will be given 1 mask to use for the whole week.
What type of
And
mask is that?
well, it all depends on what. If you are an ER nurse, you just get the general mask. If you are in
Yeah.
the ICU, you'll get the surgical mask. So as you know, that it's N95 and KN95 and surgical mask. So
Yeah.
it all depends where they are located in the hospital. So and now actually I have a friend that works at University of Pennsylvania who called me like screaming yesterday because her floor, which is the med surg floor, was closed down and they were pulled to the to the COVID floor. And because nurses are calling out and some of them are resigning because they don't want to put themselves at risk. But New York is the one, New York City especially is the one area that has really cases are actually increasing every single day.
Yeah.
And the whole problem is that it's so sad that people are still not taking this seriously. I mean, New Orleans, they literally were holding the Mardi Gras, celebration. And while all the other, cities and states are canceling their events. So it's still puzzling to so many that, there's still people that are not taking this seriously and not, operating the way that they're supposed to be. But I'll say this, that, the governors are working with the mayors and I'll speak for just my town too. Our mayor is working diligently with the governor of New Jersey, and I know that the mayor of New York is working hand in hand with the governor of New York, and in other states too, the governors are working with these mayors. So if we can all work together in collaboration and just do what we're supposed to do, respect this virus, and just collaborate and work together, we can beat this. And as of yesterday, they just extended the lockdown to April 30th. Yeah.
And what does it do to you?
Well, for me, I work for a university, so I work at home. I'm a professor, so everything is, all my face-to-face classes actually moved to online. But for the students that still want to, have that interaction, we interact on Zoom, and I also have provided them my cell phone numbers. And we have projects that we started doing, and the university is really, supporting their staff and their students. And we get a message from the president every single day, and human resources is in touch with the employees every single day. And for me, I'm literally juggling between the students that I have, in my satellite campus, and also the students that I have, my online students, which are all over the country. And some of the students will email me and say to me that, in my household, we're all using the internet, so it's not working effectively. So can I get an extension for my assignments? And I give them, willingly. And I'm just like supporting everybody. And also I started this, so my son's school, they started this program, which is care packages, which I send them to my son last year during the fall semester. So I started these care packages with international students that I can get hold of that are in the United States, because I have a very good relationship with our post office, our local post office. They come to my house and pick up the care packages that I send to the international students. For those of you that are, listening, that are in South Africa, that have students that are here in the United States, I do send care packages. I actually just started communicating with one of the moms who's going to give me an address of her daughter that's based in California. because I have my garage is actually full of, like supplies that I've just
Yes.
been sending to South Africans that are
Yes.
in the United States.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. What you're sharing in terms of the shortage of supplies, it just sounds like, you are in South Africa, because one would not have expected that in a first
the
world
US.
or in the US. We've been screaming this side, especially our healthcare professionals, that the government is not doing much in terms of securing those kind of much needed supplies. So to hear that it's actually also a serious case that side as well, it is actually something that maybe makes us to look at reality, not only from our point of view. All right.
That's correct.
Yeah. Sister Ndile,
Yep.
you've only been there for 3 months as a consul general for the western side of the US, representing South Africa. How has this, COVID-19 pandemic affected the operations within your mandate?
I think for me, the first thing that I must say, the offices are closed.
Yeah.
Because we heeded to the call of the governor this side, because the western side office is placed in Los Angeles. So the first thing, the offices are closed, but we are operating, unfortunately, because we have to operate as diplomats. So first thing is that you have a lot of South Africans that are here. Some of them are students. Some of them have been stuck in the airports, because the flights have shut down. So that's one of our challenges as well.
Yes.
The flights, they have shut down, and now we do our consular services through the telephones.
Yeah.
And some of the people have been stuck on the ships as well, where there are also people who have been tested positive. For me personally, everything has been shut down, by the way, here as well. It's been a long time, lockdown for about 3 weeks. The children are going to schools, and what is very frustrating around it is because of the food supplies. You have to wake up in the morning and run and get some food. If you don't, they will start nighting on the shelf. But secondly, the issue of testing. Like my daughter was sick, very, very sick, because she's allergic. We were not allowed in the hospitals. They say only if you are dying,
Yeah.
So there are no facilities for testing as well. So I think for me personally, it's frustrating not to know what status are you in, And what is more, hi Chrissy.
Hi, how are you? Sorry,
And
I'm like, go ahead. I missed that.
No, that's why.
And then you have South Africans also like Chrissy, who will be calling you, stressed, thinking about their families back home, Each time, like now, we've got some people that wanted to go home. Their flights have been cancelled. And I must say, from where I'm sitting, South Africa is doing very well, actually,
Yeah.
And I think for me, personally, my analysis is that why the US, the numbers are rising. Remember, it's one of the biggest tourist destinations. Like now in my analysis and assessment now, I was told that in Los Angeles, one of the greatest tourist destination during the December time, because it's warmer than Europe, is warmer than many other parts of the world. So everybody runs there. So you do not know how many people came and left, and how many people were still infected. I think that is the only challenge I think we have right now. But it is traumatic mentally. It is traumatic, stressfully, because some parents in South Africa are coping as well, You can't direct anyone to any facility of testing, because we ourselves as diplomats have not tested because those facilities are not available,
Yeah.
So at least at home, I would say you'll be testing, you'll be knowing, Even when I sneeze now, I don't know what's happening.
With the allergy season too.
So you're not sure because you don't have any facilities. It's closed down. The doctors have closed down. Everything is closed down. You do read the news, being hopeful that you'll hear something else. We're stuck on the news because even what the doctor was speaking about, the mask and everything, there's no mask, there's no gloves, there's nothing. So it's we are just hoping that countries will assist each other in this process, It will be country-to-country relations. If countries got more masks, more medical facilities, your thermometers, your everything, let's us supply each other, because this is the way to help one another. And then on
Yes.
consular services, we are here, we are providing, we've sent some people to some, fortunately, what the US has done, especially here, is to provide for those who have been stuck in airports and all. So we're sending them to where the facilities are, you know. And also I want to pass a message in this, to communicate, to say it would be nice as well for people when they come to the US or South Africans to pass and register at the embassy and talk to us, because now we are scrambling to find some of them, you know.
I know. That's
yes. So because it's our duty to take care. It's my duty as ordered by the president to take care of South Africans. So now we are scrambling for them, because sometimes they only think about the embassy when they're in trouble, you know.
Yeah.
So now the parents would say, "Where's my child?" It's difficult for us to trace because the children never came. And I must say there's high level of panic here. And we hope as times, and for schools, so even my daughter is speaking about coronavirus because she can't get out as well. And sometimes you do face also an element of racism as well. I think I should raise this thing, you know, because she sneezed one time in one of the restaurants, and then the host said, there are a lot of germs here. So that means she's not been taught how to sneeze. And I took offense with that. You know, I'm just saying there's so much panic about it. That's all I can say.
All right. Let me just welcome other friends. Sibongile, you know, she calls herself Zulu Princess. So Sibongile, hello.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ben. Just introduce yourself, just for the benefit of the people who are viewing this, you know, this broadcast. I asked the other guys to do the same. Just who you are, why are you in the US, and just that intro.
Okay, my name is Sibongile Buthelezi, Zulu Princess.
Don't see you.
We can't see you. Just go back a little bit. Bongile.
Sis Bongile. Okay, never mind. Sorry to disturb you, Mama.
I can see myself. I can see all of you.
But we can only see half of your face.
I can see her.
I can see her full profile.
I can see her.
Okay.
I don't see her at all.
All right. Sibongile, just tell us who you are.
Okay.
Sibongile Buthelezi.
Yeah.
Hashtag Zulu Princess.
Yeah.
I've been in the US for the last 23 years.
Yeah.
And I'm a self-employed entrepreneur.
Yeah. All right. So, how has this, you know, pandemic affected you personally, or as a business person, entrepreneur that you have, that you are?
Well, obviously, it has affected everybody. Whether, you know, everybody's affected, rich, poor, everybody's affected by this. I'm not anything special. So we just have to, you know, take it slow and listen to our leaders and protect each other and stay away from the street and clean after ourselves and drink as much water as possible. Drink as much water, hot, warm water as possible. That's what I'm doing. I have my over here.
Thank you very much. So in terms of your business, how has it disrupted your business? Because I mean, you're running an essential service, moving people from place,
from 100 to 0.
From 100 to 0.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's not so good. And how long has that been?
My client, my business starts it's all around the year, but like any other business at the peak at times, you know, and my peak times are March, and exactly March, that's when they shut down everything.
Wow.
You know,
Cancelled every single event.
My line of business depends on big events, like the CSW, you know, the United Nations. You know, I drive quite few diplomats around the world. So if they don't come, that means I don't have business. If bank CEOs don't come to the Wall Street, that means I don't make business. If big companies don't come for their big meetings in New York, that means I don't have business. If flights cancels, that means I don't have business.
Oh.
So like I
Okay.
said, once they shut down the airport, it was from 100 to 0. Once they shut down the United Nations, once they shut down all the big events, it was like that.
Yeah. All right. Now, thank you for that intro.
All of that, nothing compared to what our life, to our health.
Yeah. All right. Chris, can you just introduce yourself to the viewers? Why are you in the US? What are you doing there in New York?
Hi.
Hi, Chris. Yeah.
I'm looking for my charger. That's why you see me moving around.
Oh no, I'm not. I don't even see you at this point. I gotta move screens. But yeah, I'm Chris Masemola. I've been here over 25 years. So it's been a whole lot of time. It's it's home for me. So I came here in the fashion industry, in the beauty industry and fashion industry as a teenage girl, and I have grown and evolved into different spaces. From that into the backends of the beauty cosmetic industry, and moved on into working with investment sectors and trying to support South Africa as well, and working closely to support South African mission and find how we can create the bridge between the US and South Africa, using all the resources and the contacts that I have. And so that's what I've been doing. On my I have a makeup line, and that obviously it was manufactured in LA, and I had to move it to China. And then I ended up having to suspend that when everything started to erupt in China last year. I also brought in, I think Fundile, you know about that. I brought in some investors in South Africa in the manufacturing space, just as soon as when the trade war started and the tariffs started between the US and China, and there was a pressure of a lot of US manufacturers in getting their goods out of China. So they were looking for options, and that took an initiative on that part to bring those people to South Africa and hit a couple of factories and show what South Africa is capable of, and introduce them to the AGOA in hopes that this will support and enhance South African production and create employment and grow the manufacturing sector. Yeah. So we have been working on that. If I'm trying to follow up, I don't know if I'm ahead of time, but I'm trying to follow up in the question that you asked, Sibongile. So I think you probably want to know how am I affected, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I definitely want, the reason why I invited both of you, because you guys are in the epicenter of this pandemic in the US. And the stuff that we see on TV, it's quite scary. And I really need to, get to understand what's happening there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the personal level, on the business level, on the social level, you affected at different levels, but at the end of the day, all those are intertwined into your daily living. I travel a lot. I do business traveling. I have to go to LA. I have to come back here. And I happen to have been in a lot of back and forth between Los Angeles and New York, and flying back and forth almost every other week. And during the time when this was already starting to be, breaking up. In the beginning, around March, just a week before the shutdown, there wasn't any safety measures at the airport, but there was a lot of talk. But when I went there, I didn't find any extra caution that was taken. Yeah, it was still business as usual, and it was your personal safety that you decided to make to take the initiative to protect yourself, whether you want to bring in a mask or anything like that. But I have been here that long, and I basically do business, and I work for myself, and I travel a lot, so I am basically grounded right now. I had to come back and sit my butt down in New York City, and just wait. And unfortunately, the saddest part is that when we went to South Africa last year with investors that I had brought in, when we got to the manufacturing shoe industry from Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg, we hit about 4 factories that we manufacture, and we ended up identifying some couple of manufacturing companies, and we came up with a shoe that was South African based, and to try and create that business, okay, for South Africa. And we named it House It. It's a tucker boot, right?
Yeah.
And we took it to in Denver, Retail Outdoor Expo, which was like in Fab. And then we took it to Vegas. And we had these orders, big orders, 500,000 orders that were supposed to be coming out of South Africa for Marshalls, for Mars, for a couple of outlets out of New York. And all that business came into a standstill because everybody shut down.
Wow. All right.
So that's
all right. Let me just ask Afika, you know, he's already introduced himself. Afika Nyati, he's my son. He's based in Boston, Massachusetts. It was his birthday on the 26th of March. Now, a day after his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so a day after his birthday, he put up a message that actually shocked me, you know, because I've been busy here in South Africa educating people about COVID-19 and everything. And there is my son in the US putting up a post that he actually thinks he has just recovered from COVID-19, but unfortunately could not be tested in Boston because there were no testing facilities. He had a milder version of COVID-19, but he's almost 90% sure that that's what he experienced. So I just want him to just take us through what happened. You know, it's the first time I'm asking him a question about this because I needed to deal with it, you know, on my own as a parent. But you know what? I'm busy educating other people, and maybe I've forgotten to deal with, you know, my own family. But anyway, Fika, can you just tell us what happened?
Okay, no, I feel like you left this specifically for this video stream, so you could have this like shocking moment. But yeah, I'll go into some of my experience.
Yeah, just briefly.
Yeah, so I think I started basically reading about this early March, as I think most people might have caught on in the US. So when things, I think, started to get to the height of, I think, a lot of people higher up coming to terms with this, around March 9, that's when I started to feel a lot of the symptoms. So, I mean, felt a lot of the stuff that typically I mentioned, being very tired. It's been like 3 hours to get out of bed, like on 3 days. I had this mild, constant headache. My muscles felt a bit weak. And then like basically these symptoms maintained, didn't get better over time. And yeah, I mean, just looking at and reading more about what you feel, and given the actual timing of things, it made a lot of sense that I probably did contract it. Of course, because the US had never had to deal with something like this. I think one of the reasons why the US is being impacted so much is, one, it's a big country. So in terms of the numbers, it's somewhat expected that there will be larger numbers relative to other countries. Of course, like China is a bigger country with about more than 1 billion people, but they've gone through SARS, other similar viruses in the past. So they have adopted and understood what is necessary to act quickly, minimize the effects. So the US hadn't really gone through this. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I think there was a lack of preparedness, both from like a health standpoint in terms of having the right infrastructure, but also like culturally, it was not common for people to walk around with masks, wearing masks. avoiding people, such and such. So you had to basically face those two things. So as a result, there weren't really many avenues for me to test. You would only be allowed to be tested if you were at a extreme level of symptoms. So I kind of had to assume and kind of self-diagnose myself. So while I'm not like 100% sure I did in fact have it, I had to act as if I did and did not have it. Fortunately, I mean, being at home is the best way to do both of those things. So yeah, I mean, it took me about 20 days or so to fully come back to normal. So by I think Friday last week, yeah, that was I think when my symptoms had fully removed. So yeah.
How do you think you got it? You know, is there any particular contacts that you think maybe I could have got it in this way or that way?
I mean, it's hard to say. I did spend, I think, the week when a lot of universities were closing down, I spent some time around one of the campuses in Boston. So because it was the school I went to, I did meet a couple of people I didn't know. So being in a highly populous place with people that travel a lot, I think there's just so many places to be in contact with it.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend was she was basically on the West Coast, where a week later we found out that where she was staying was in fact a place where people were tested positive. So it's likely that that's one path that things could have moved from. But I mean, hard to say.
Yeah, but how are you feeling now?
No, I'm good. Running
good.
Very good.
Oh, good. Hey.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm busy.
I mean, there's so
talking to
much that is happening now. They're actually not allowing. There's some states that are not allowing people from New York. You know, and I think Vermont is one of the states that is not allowing people from New York to.
So that it was changed. The governor of Vermont had put up a law that every car that comes from New York with New York plates will be, I mean, it's Rhode Island, right?
Rhode Island, yes, Rhode Island.
New York, Rhode Island, that will be flagged down and people have to be quarantined. And Governor Cuomo, thank God to him, he actually revoked. You know, he had a talk with, and they had to change that because most New Yorkers, Vermont, I mean, Rhode Island is not far. It's about 3 hours drive from New York City. 2 hours, 3 hours, given which route you take. And a lot of New Yorkers have holiday homes there. It's closer to Massachusetts. So during this time, a lot of people that are in New York that wants to get out and go to their homes to go hunker down there, you know, because it makes sense that a lot of people want to get in New York to diffuse the density, you know. So they're now shutting us down because we now basically stigmatized. We like the bacteria they just running around. So
hey, that's why
other states wants us to quarantine 14 days if we come to them. Florida this morning just issued the thing out.
Of that, it is not lawful to do something like that because we are watching. Absolutely not lawful. So he was the governor who was breaking the law. It's absolutely federal. The was breaking the federal law.
And that is why New Jersey's numbers are jumping because, you know, as you are saying that a lot of people, you know, like New Jersey is borderline with New York. And I'm in the southern part of New Jersey. And so a lot of people that live in North Jersey, they basically work in New York. So that is why, and it's mainly in the North Jersey part that, you know, we actually have just 6 cases in the southern part of New Jersey, but it's really, really high in the northern part of New Jersey. But go ahead.
I think for me, Dr. Fundile,
Yeah.
As much as it would be unlawful, I think also sometimes there's also fear, you know, and also some people want to take care of their people. Like I was watching the news in South Africa. There's also an appeal that some people from other provinces mustn't travel to other provinces as well, you know.
In fact, now that we have the lockdown, we are discouraging people to move, you know, from one province to the other. In fact, where I am, which is in Gauteng, we, you know, like you guys in New York, we are the epicenter of the pandemic here in South Africa as Gauteng. And so there was a big fear that with the Easters coming up, if you then allow lots of South Africans who are based in Gauteng to go to the rural provinces like Eastern Cape, like Limpopo, then we could actually be transporting the virus to those areas. And they, unfortunately, are not so well equipped. Not that Gauteng, you know, is, you know, best equipped, but certainly better in terms of facilities and everything compared to the other provinces, with the exception maybe of Western Cape. So you are picking up this thing. In fact, some of the meetings I wanted to schedule in the Eastern Cape, I was told, no. An instruction came to the bosses that don't have any meeting with somebody who is in Gauteng. Rather, you do it via Skype or other ways. So we are also feeling it here, being people who are in the center of the, you know, epidemic here in South Africa.
I think for me as well, you know, I've just realized in this pandemic that people are everyone who's out, but who's scared to die or things are dying, they want to go home, you know, because we've got also some ladies who are working here as domestic workers who say, Consul General, I want to die home, you know, I want to go, I want to die home. Maybe everyone wants to be closer to their families as well. As I said to you earlier, that it has its psychological impacts as well, you know, because everybody wants to go home. Even here, the Americans want to go closer to their families, you know, because everybody's like, I'm going home, because everybody wants to just to be closer to your families as well, you know. So as I said to you, it has impact as well. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask a question, because I know Sibongile and Chrissy are business women. How do they feel mentally? Sibongile, I happen to know, he just once chauffeured me, by the way. She didn't remember. In the US.
No, Sibongile, you can answer that.
So how do they feel mentally and psychologically? And because they have relatives in South Africa, how do they feel? Because obviously it does have an impact on them.
I personally made a decision 2020, the 1st of January, that I was going to be a very positive human. I was going to do whatever it takes to be very positive. So in all counts. So I've been very positive. I've been doing a lot of praying, a lot of singing, and I know for a fact that we will come over this. We will overcome this. We will do after this. The question is, in my opinion, as a businesswoman, we are entering into the new norm. So I'm very much aware that my business is not going to be the same after this, because the economy is not going to be the same. So how do we change our new norm? How do we enter into the new norm to survive into the new norm? As a businesswoman, that's all I'm thinking of. How do I adjust to the new norm? Because it's not going to be the same. The economy of the world is definitely centered. So I run according to the economy. I live according to the economy of the world. I look at the economy of the world. My clients are the one who are running the economy of the world. So are they going to be able to travel, or are they going to do their meetings like this? You know what I mean? Adjust business-wise. But then otherwise, I'm very positive. There's no need to be scared, because it's not going to help. It's not going to help. Just be positive and think positive and think how you can adjust.
Now, sometime, I think, Chris? Yesterday or this morning, I'm not sure, your side, but you shared something about a building that was converted within a number of days to become a hospital or a quarantine facility stuff. So what are the positives that you guys have seen in New York, in trying to deal with this? Because obviously, besides us pointing out the gaps, but what are things that you could say, well, actually, this and that is something that can even be emulated at home?
Right. So this is what I do in most of the time. And I know I have been talking to you through your inboxes and just trying to point out a certain things that I think can be done differently to educate South African masses. But to answer the CG's question first, how am I affected or mentally, look, I've been in America, New York City, I always look at New York City as different because it has a heartbeat of its own. And we've gone through a lot of challenges. I was here through the 9/11. I've gone through that. I was here through the Hurricane Sandy, through Irene. We've gone through that. And we know as New Yorkers, New York is tough. You got to be tough to make it in this city, especially when you're an immigrant. I'm alone here. I've been alone here for 25 years. And I'm good. You crack, you build, you raise up. That's what New York is about. So, based on that, just saying that, I know that even though we hit hard because of our density, because of our closeness, because of our lifestyles and how we live in New York City, it's very easy that, and we are a tourist hub as well. Everybody lands here. Whether they going to the Caribbean, they gotta come here first to JFK to connect, So we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know who has it, how long it's been here. And just now, even though we have a lockdown, but the essential workers on their own to be able to accommodate this city and provide the needs of the people, just the grocery store workers, just the cleaners, just the delivery, on their own, it's a huge community that the subway and the buses, the MTA transit is still packed. Even though you've locked other people down and you've locked non-essential businesses down, the essential businesses, the amount of people it takes to make the city function, it's a huge community. It's a big number on its own. We have like 5,000 NYPD that are called out, right? Over 900 of NYPD are positive and they are quarantining. So they're under quarantine. And then about 2 days ago, you have over 650 prisoners that have been released to the city because of the congestion at Rikers, and they say some is misdemeanor, but you don't know. So you have that. There are other threats that are coming up, because you have prisoners that have been let out in order to protect them because of our freedoms. We have a lot of freedoms, and everybody has to be protected, So then you have a shortage of police. And that's a concern. But above all that, I cannot, with all the fear, I am in the heart of Manhattan. So I don't sleep. I can hear all the sirens. I'm surrounded by 4 hospitals. The sirens around me day and night is crazy. It sounds like, like you're watching police, and it's scary. But there's a lot of positive things that New York is doing. And I truly believe that if there's anybody who's going to come up with an answer to this much quicker, is New York City. We already done so much stuff ahead of time. We have the Jarvis Center, which is like our convention center. It's massive. And that has been tested in 4 hospitals in 1 week with 1,000 beds. And it opened yesterday. It's ready to receive patients today. At Central Park, we have a field hospital that has been turned in, that is just for COVID patients, and it has about 68 beds. It's opening today. And you have the Comfort Navy ship that came in yesterday. It docked down. It has 1,000 beds. It has a lab. It has 12 operating rooms in there. It has a pharmacy. It's very high equipped. And then above all that, there's also 4 other sites that have been identified on the outer boroughs. So the outer boroughs, outer boroughs is the borough. The inner borough is Manhattan. The outer boroughs is Queens,
Brooklyn,
Staten Island, the other boroughs. Every single other site, they have identified like massive site, Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Port, behind the Yankee Stadium, Staten Island, and they are converting all those into hospitals to be able to, you know, take off the pressure of hospitals.
Yeah.
So all
Okay.
those things are positive. And then you have
Yeah.
Mount Sinai, which is now doing the antibodies test. They are collecting plasma from everybody that resolved, that was positive, and that is resolved, and they are collecting that to see if you injected to the patient that that's your language, doc. You know better. But
Yeah,
they are
yeah, yes.
okay.
Yeah, in fact, in fact, Amanda shared an article with me, I think earlier this week, around that, you know. Yes, yes. I think the thinking there, you know.
On a positive aspect, I will add that in the education sector, from K to 12, and also in the university sectors, like for instance, you know, in order for students to continue going to school, they have to have laptops, they have to have the internet. So Comcast has literally, and some people don't know about this, but Comcast just, you know, announced that, you know, you can have, you know, the internet for free for 2 months, as long as you just call in. And so students are able to log in and continue with their classes. And also schools, just before they went on to lockdown, because most of the, I don't know about in South Africa, but public schools, most of the students have, you know, laptops that some programs are, you know, given to the students from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, school year. So now they've taken all the laptops that are being utilized at home in school, but for students that didn't have laptops to be able to get into, you know, the online sessions so that they can continue with their education. And also, and I can speak for just New Jersey, and I think also in New York, all in other states. Now the schools now are still, you know, being used to, if let's say you want, you know, breakfast, lunch, you know, for your child, because there are kids in the United States that only can have breakfast and lunch in school. So parents can still go and pick up the breakfast and lunch in school. And then people have gone beyond that by also, you know, donating, you know, the cooking supplies so that they can, people can go to, you know, to the schools to pick up, you know, their dinners, because it's very costly. I mean, and I'll speak for myself. You know, when my son was in college, you know, he was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner on campus, and now he has to eat it at home. So it's very, it has become, you know, more costly, you know, to maintain the family that's at home. So there are so many other, you know, positive things that are coming up, and the people that, you know, are donating. There are tons of donations that, you know, are flowing around. So there are so many positive things that are happening within the community. And as, you know, as it was stated that, you know, in New York, you know, they would, you know, they always, you know, are together to get through a situation. I think New Jersey and Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, and Delaware are doing the same thing. And I'm just talking about states that I am close to, that I have, you know, relationship with those states, with the, you know, with the leaders in those states.
Yeah.
So there's so many other positive, you know, things that are happening too.
Yeah. Now, just to ask now, just before that, Chris, I'm gonna come to you just now. I just want you guys, because we are getting to a point where we need to wrap up, but I just want to find out, are you guys, as you are sitting there in the US, I'm sure you are following what's happening in South Africa. We are on day 5 of the lockdown here. You know, we're still worrying that there's still so many days to get to 21. And we're not even sure if there would be no extension like in the US. So how are you guys, you know, able to follow what's happening in South Africa, at the same time, look at what's happening, within your environments there? What does it do to you?
Can I do something quickly, Fund?
Yeah.
And I'll come back to your question. And I just wanted to add on what you were saying, that you asked what is it that South Africa can do that I'm seeing in New York City to stay ahead. Okay. And now I don't know, because our news challenge, my source of information is from all the digital news channels that I get, whether it's News 24, Times, whatever. I read myself crazy to try and find out. And I have been seeing all the chaos that are going on, especially in the underprivileged communities and all that stuff. And so here's what my suggestions, and I don't know if they already putting that in place, but there are other things that they should be looked into up front that I think that New York is doing, including preparing additional hospitals, using the hotels that are now not working, that don't have no, because I suppose you don't have any tourism right now.
Yeah,
but
none.
Identifying some of the schools, maybe the schools that have shut down in Soweto, identifying them, using those. The other most powerful thing that I think Como has done was to try and put in communities like, areas. So you kind of section areas. And you can mix Santin with Alex, and you have an uppity area supporting the other part. And you work with the cycle of those hospitals to be able to support each other. In that way, when you cut it down into small sections, it makes it much easier to be able to coordinate, and to manage. So I thought that was, that's one of the things that it needs to be done right now up front. I know they're still trying to chase people to stay inside the house, but on the other hand, parallel to that, they should be preparing for the apex that they're gonna hit. Like it shouldn't be hitting them by surprise, outsourcing, finding out all the additional supplies and PPEs that they're gonna need, whether it's respirators, whether it's like the pump, and coming up with things that can be done locally as soon as possible. That can be produced and manufactured. So there are all those sectors that needs to be taken care of. In New York, we are allowed to go out. We are not locked inside the house. So you can go out and work out, but you are advised to just minimal. Go and get what you're allowed to go for a walk, but you cannot just linger around, okay? You're always gonna find the people that will do whatever they like. Yesterday, de Blasio, which is our mayor, imposed a $500 fine for anyone who is not obeying or not observing the social distancing. So we have that headache as well. We do have it. We have a lot of people. I have a field right across my backyard, like it's a park. And at 4 a.m. in the morning, there's soccer games going on because they're running away from the police. They don't want to play during it. So they come at 4 a.m. in the morning because nobody's rushing anywhere. So you do have that. It's not just in South Africa, but unfortunately, the painful thing in South Africa is that there's dire needs, And I think that also what else could be done is to arrange food banks in different areas. If all the grocery stores can come together, have little food banks in community halls around every location, that would help so much so that people don't have to all go to ShopRite and line behind each other. Because even the squatting or the sanitizer, it don't mean anything. They also need to be educated by the aerosol transmission. That's your field. So those are the things that I think that I can share for now. But I'm open to sharing more as I find other info.
Thank you, thank you, Chris.
I think for me, Fundile.
I believe our president, Dr. Ramaphosa, has said yesterday that he was going to send some brands to go into the township to test people.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, it's
a good thing, because then people will, South Africa will know exactly how many people are infected, and then they will take those, and then, those who are infected away from the community, and then however they put, to treat them. That way, it will speed up the process of of the quarantine. I think it was a very good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, just on that point, before you come in, Tandile, on that point, you know, there's a lot of good things that South Africa has done in terms of dealing with this pandemic. If you look at, you know, the time it took for us to go into lockdown, it was within 3 weeks of us having the first case. And now on top of that, he has escalated the response to ensure that there is testing in the communities so that those people who may be asymptomatic, meaning there are no symptoms but may be infectious, can be picked up early before they cause more transmission. So I think the approach that we are following is closely the approach that China, Singapore, South Korea have taken. And in all those three countries, they have been able to flatten the curve, you know, significantly. But the only challenge is that some of the messaging to some of our people who are not so conversant with the Queen's language, you know, they didn't really get the message. So something that Chris mentioned, that we need to find a way to talk to people in their vernacular language so that they understand some of these concepts. Because what you're seeing when you're watching TV, some people don't understand why they have to be stuck in their homes. They don't understand why, you know, how is that going to contribute to anything? So I think increased public health education in local language would go a long way to getting people to actually abide with the rules, because at this moment, not everybody is abiding with the rules, but part of it is because the messaging has not been very clear.
Yeah.
Tandila, you
explain every language. And I think the other thing that might be an issue now in South Africa, I think that language of trying to identify every new person that they find positive with COVID, and they wanna write there, like they've traveled where, they went where, they come from overseas Italy. It gives a perception for the people in the ground who don't have the understanding of what this is, that you only have it if you've traveled overseas.
Yes,
I think the part has passed now. Now it's just about like educating what this is, what it does.
Yes.
It's there already.
No, they've moved to that now, because we're seeing a lot of internal transmission of the virus amongst people who have got no history of travel. So they are dealing with that. In fact, the other thing that they are doing here is that for every positive person, there is now an increased campaign to identify, you know, possible contacts of that person as a way to actually, you know, reduce the number of people who are out there who are positive. So that's why I'm saying the approach that our government here is following, I can't fault it at all. Yes, there's more things that could be done on the public education. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that could be done in that area. The shortage of PPEs for essential workers, it seems to be a global issue, you know, but I think our relationships with China as a country is going to help us because they now have a huge industry that produces all of the things that we need. Whilst other countries in the West are now saying our people first. So I think leveraging the relationship of the BRICS, you know, group of countries will go a long way towards helping us, you know, as a country.
I would like to hear what Africa has to say to the, like Africa. You have not said a word for a minute, but I think that is your voice at in this platform is so important, because the people that are not obeying the laws are your friends,
your age
group. So can you please like explain like to them, or tell us what are they saying? What are you hearing? What are the reasons they're not following through?
I haven't actually caught up with people my age back home.
Lift up your voice, Fika.
I have not caught up with people back home my age, so I don't have a good understanding of necessarily what's the mentality. So I really can't to that at this moment.
But I mean, even here in the US.
But even here in the US, like.
So I mean, I think I'm in a generally like well-educated space. So I think most people do understand the importance of staying away and social distancing. Of course, because we are considered less risk, it's more, it seems less visceral and close to you. However, I mean, there has been like a lot of that it's not affecting you. Getting it, there are still various people my age that have problems to coping solutions. So I think there is understanding that no, like you definitely are someone that others too. Yeah, so
So, but with Africa, with your experience now, what you think you have survived, you know, what message do you have for young people?
I mean, just stay healthy, keep people informed, educate, make use of the time you do have, make sure that you're keeping in touch with pretty much people around you. I think it's for a lot of people a pretty scary time. So reaching out to those people that maybe never touch you. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as
can
somebody
I add on to?
a question.
Can I add? Sorry, can I just add on to what Africa was saying? That you know, when this virus was newly circulating, there was a notion and also a assumption that you know it's mainly for the senior citizen, for the elderly. This virus is not literally it's hitting everybody. It's hitting every single race, every single age, and we have seen that now. That it's literally hitting every single person that you know is out there, and it's literally you know any age, any race, any color. So you know we have seen that. You know there are actually also cases of under 25-year-olds that have also, you know, like had tested positive with this virus. So, I mean, that was a good message, Africa.
Africa, I just want to ask a specific question to you. As somebody who is in the 4IR technology space, you know, do you think this pandemic that is forcing people to stay in their homes will actually accelerate the adoption of, you know, technology solutions? Like we've just heard now in the education sector, they have to conduct classes online. Your sister, Ubuse, she attends classes the whole day online, and the universities are doing the same. So, and businesses are found wanting. They have to find ways to still continue to service, but use more online. So I'm just asking whether you think out of the negative situation of the pandemic, but actually there is, you know, an opportunity for people to actually bring closer their plans to upgrade their technology. After your question, after answering that question, I'll ask Thandile to actually also just contribute because she's been putting up her hand.
Cool. So a bit of background, I studied computer science, so the work I'm doing now is very much around creating technology to solve, I think, problems that exist. So area I'm interested in is, in fact, one of the few that definitely could or is something that would be useful today. So I'm interested, I've been working on technology such as virtual reality or augmented reality, which are basically ways to see, instead of using a computer and seeing like digital things through a screen, it's almost like putting them in your room as opposed to having to use a computer. So for something like taking meetings, I think one of the benefits of being in person is you get a very natural experience, which creates this authentic ability to communicate with people. So that's something that I think you lose when you are speaking through something like Zoom or Skype. So there is the sense that if these things could be deployed today, it would make it a lot easier to not be as hindered by being at home. To your point, though, it's the major issue is not around, it's not behavioral issues that are holding back those technologies. There's issues around cost. The technology itself is not quite yet there. And then the use cases, I think this is one, but for the price, for the price for these things, it's not worth it. So I don't think it's gonna accelerate it dramatically, but you might see some companies that might have the resources to experiment consider doing that. But I think as it stands, most people will go to things like basically video conferencing such as Zoom, Skype, such and such. But I don't think you're going to see too much in terms of the emerging technology really speeding up in terms of adoption.
Thank you, Fika. Thank you, Fika. Sister Ndile, you've been, your hand has been up for some time.
I think for me, Fundile, health workers like you, doctors and all, I know you started your voluntary services because with this, it reminds me when HIV started. Some people are saying, no, it's a condom that brings HIV. It's a disease not for Africans. So we still have a same challenge right here now. But for me, what I can say, but I saw yesterday, it has been started. What I saw here in Los Angeles that I loved is how they took care of the homeless people, giving them tents and meals and everything. Obviously, they can also not be abandoned in this process. Secondly, watching the videos, I've seen some of the law enforcement say that people must stay indoors. Fundile, it's not possible. Not to say you must go and longing around, but even when they're in their yards, they say, go inside, I mean, there are people, especially in disadvantaged areas. I mean, some of them stay 6 in one shack. You can't expect them to be locked a stay. Maybe people can just get some air just outside, not to say they must walk around or do anything. Because here in Los Angeles, people go and shop. What maybe we can encourage is for them not to go all in the same day, to go and buy. And my issue was also the issue of the social distancing. It's one of the things that has not been applied. The law queues are long. I know it's frustrating, but just to educate the social distancing. I'm happy you touched on the issue of the language because it's one of the things that I've raised to say, as long as people don't understand, my grandmother who's in the Eastern Cape, as much as she speaks English, Bona, if she don't explain it in Xhosa, she'll not hear what you're saying, Yeah. So I think the issue of the language is very, very important. I'm happy that we've touched it as well. So there are some positives as well, because end of the day, I believe as a doctor, people if they don't just encourage you to even to walk around the house, as well. Because it's also frustrating for us, for me, I've got a 5-year-old who doesn't understand why can't you get out of the apartment here, So it should have an emotional toil as well. But also the positive side of it, my uncle who's been smoking for years can't go out and buy cigarettes. He says, I think I can't smoke any longer. So also the positives are there. But I must say, we need to help each other as nations. I've been speaking to the Ambassador Mandela in South Korea, how they've dealt with it. Nations can, this is a time for nations to help each other. Let's be real diplomats and help each other as nations. Yes, it's not time for tug of war. It's not time for superpowers and smaller powers. It's time for nations to be united as one.
Yes.
Fundile, I want to add a very, very important point quickly. I won't be long. I suggested this, and I want to say this again on this platform, and I want to say it to you as well, CG, that I think that it's very imperative that when they, on the government level, when they do the updates of COVID-19 in South Africa, I don't see a doctor there. And I think that's a lot of people that...
The minister is a doctor.
The minister is a doctor.
The minister is a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, but okay. All right. Well, I didn't know that. But I mean, at the end, I think that if they have a doctor from the CDC on that side whatsoever to be part of it, just to try and explain a little bit more, because he's a doctor, but still he has to do the, the governmental work part of it.
Yes.
But I think that's like
no.
right here.
Can I say something? The minister
Yes,
is the
please.
doctor, and the minister is surrounded by few doctors. There is
And
each
they're doing a great job.
yeah,
Yes.
that it's a
Have they,
team.
Mhm.
Each
I haven't
department
seen that.
is
I didn't
surrounded.
see.
Each department is surrounded. Each minister is surrounded by other few professionals. There's no
Mhm.
minister. There's no minister that walks around without other former doctors. If a minister is a minister of foreign affairs, there's other lawyers who are as well qualified, if
understand
not
that.
more
Yes,
qualified.
yes, yes, yes.
to
I
do the job.
understand that. I was saying in a common language that everybody can understand to their level.
Yeah.
You understand?
I-
Professional language is a little different than
Yeah.
like speaking.
I think
to
I understand what Chris is trying to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I get it. I get
Okay.
You
it.
understand
I
what I'm
think
saying?
what
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think what Chris is basically saying is that after the announcement of figures and stuff, there must be a group of people who
Who
come
tone
in
it
and
down.
unpack that which
Mhm.
was communicated
Exactly.
in
Yes.
language
Yes.
that is more accessible to people.
People,
Because of the limited time of the press conferences, there isn't enough time to unpack things. So I think what she's saying is a second layer of people below the minister, you know, especially in the provinces, should then distill the message and communicate that in ways that an average person can be able to
Can
consume.
understand.
I-
Not
I
in
think-
their, not in
Exactly.
the
That's what I'm saying.
doctor's,
Yeah.
not in the doctor's language. In a,
language.
In
yeah,
the
okay.
language that people understand, and also
Okay.
it should be on TV, national TV, right after it when people are sitting there to get everybody's attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
no,
right
I
now
get you.
everybody has
Can
to
I
log
also
into.
add on something, Dr. Nyasi?
All right, Sibongile.
Can I also add on something that
Yeah.
I just want to stay away from the minister's responsibility. I think it's a community responsibility.
Agreed.
I think we as a community check up on your neighbor. Please,
Yes.
I put on my friends to say because I'm far away and I might not even come home until FAA flies back, it's open. Check up on my mother. Make sure that my mother, I mean, I make sure that I send my mother some money. I make sure she has enough food. But then I doubt it very much if she used that money to buy, all of that money to buy food, you know, without not really understanding the depth of this whole thing. So if we check up on our neighbors, our seniors, and then make sure that their house is clean. It's a community thing. If we don't do this as a community, then we're gonna you're better off taking up on your neighbor than losing your neighbor.
Guys,
But we also as well,
community, we're gonna grow much faster.
If we can make it
much faster out.
all right.
I just want to make this point quickly, you know.
Yeah.
If I know Dr. Nkosazana has been running this very good, if also traditional leaders around, they are very well aware. They are one of the most people that can communicate it as well. But I like what Sibongile is saying. Sibongile earlier, if you remember, I said this is also a community responsibilities. Check on your neighbor as well. Because one thing that I know, there are some people that in need. As much as we don't want to have contact, if you grow up in Soweto, you'll know that a certain house here, there's a certain need. You know, let's say, like in other countries, like Cameroon is one of those countries that you cannot compare to South Africa. But they're sharing. If the neighbor has cooked SAMP, they know that there's a certain child-headed household, a community that is needed, a 97-year-old grandmother who stays on her own. So we must encourage that community support and love. I think, we hear you now, Chris. Sorry, we didn't get it. I didn't get it. But now I hear what you say. But it's also as well.
Guys, we actually have gone beyond the time that we had set for this meeting. So I'm gonna ask each one of you to have closing remarks around this matter of the impact of COVID globally. But you know, just your closing remarks. I'll give a minute to each one of you so that in about 6 minutes we are done. So I'll start, Africa. I'll start with you as the youngest in the group. What are the closing remarks that you'd like to say to us?
I mean, I'll keep it pretty simple. Stay in good spirits and in good health. Yeah. Keep talking. Let's keep things moving. Let's listen to the professionals. And yeah, we're going to get past this. This is not the first time something like this has happened in human history. So yeah, there will be new days.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris, your closing remarks? Hey, Chris.
Stay safe, practice social distance, and do whatever it takes. You know, we're just beginning. It's still gonna get worse. We gotta get ready, and hopefully we make it the other side altogether. On that note, how do we date these days?
Well, online dating, you know. So yeah, online dating, I think that's the only way at this moment. All right, Sister Ndile.
I was just trying like that. Thank you.
Sister Ndile, your closing remarks to South Africans?
I think for me, for all South Africans that are in the United States, they must just check upon each other, you know, and find out how is each one doing, you know, and please contact the consulates. And we've got one in embassy in Washington, in New York, in here in Los Angeles, and where's Pumzile? Chris, remind me. in Chicago. No, you've got Bujeri also in the United Nations. So every South Africans, our services are available. If there's a South African in distress, please contact us 24 hours. We said we agree to be diplomats. We are here anytime you want to talk, any issue that you want to raise. Even South Africans that are at home, who've got children here, can they please contact us? We are monitoring the situation. We're monitoring the ships. We are giving back the report. Please, let's love one another and take care of one another. That's the most important thing for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. Zulu Princess, Shenge, just give us your closing remarks.
Positive mind. I believe that if we keep positive mind and then if we pray and then we do the right thing, we wash our hands, we drink a lot of water, we drink a lot of, you know, I have my own concoction with ginger, garlic, cinnamon, and turmeric, you know, with hot water, and then we cleanse ourselves. At the end of the day, when it's all done, we're gonna be healthy people.
Yeah.
We're going to be loving nation because we're gonna know each and every one of us who's your neighbor, and we're gonna be a clean nation. There's gonna be positive that is gonna come out of this. We're gonna be a clean nation, healthy nation, and loving nation. No negative energy. Period.
I'm just worried about the population explosion, you know, 9 months from now.
That's for those. That's for those who are quarantined.
Some of us are gonna come out very clean and healthy. God, some of us are gonna come pregnant, which is okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Amanda, your closing remarks.
Okay, so I agree with everybody's closing remarks, and I really appreciate everybody's support. And I'm just going to end with this remark that JF Kennedy said, that ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, which is what we've all basically said about checking in with our neighbors and just do the right thing. You know, as Chris said, social distancing, stay safe, and, you know, just checking up on each other. Okay.
Abantu baseBhayi, what are you saying to Abantu baseBhayi?
Hey, indeed, kubantu baseBhayi, khani just respect the law and just live. Hlalani endlini, nina ntsike ni mamele umthetho, ni yenze into efuneke yenziwe. That was good, ne?
You're struggling,
eh? Yeah.
All right.
Oh, my friend.
And
Thank God.
Nkosi dog, Nkosi
Very,
with the dog.
Thank you,
This was
Fandile.
very, very good. You know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we should keep on. We should do this again another week, after a week, to see how far we've gone and how
No, that's
things.
fine.
It was amazing. Thank
The
you.
platform is available. I'll use it because really we need to compare notes and look at best practice in the different parts of the world. And so you guys, I want to thank you for actually spending an hour and a half on this platform, you know, sharing your
Pray
experiences.
for us in New York in the meantime. Really pray for us in New York City. I mean,
Did you see the pollution? Can we just say thank you? Mother Nature is getting back to its natural resources. The pollution.
Telling you.
Can we just say? Can we just, Dr. Nyati, can we just promote that in the future the world can take 2 days off, and then the world can come back to itself?
Sure. With all the economic impact of, you know, that this has caused. I mean, yesterday I hosted 2 economists on this platform, and the stuff that they were talking about is scary. So yeah, I'm not sure if we really want to have another 2 weeks of no work for everybody, but it would be lovely, you know.
2 days yeah, 2 days
All
a
right.
month, whole year for the
All
whole
right.
year.
I'm happy to meet you, Afika. Happy to meet you, Dr. Kams.
Yeah.
Amanda Ota.
And CG, I always tell you. Fundile, thank you so much, but I gotta run.
No, we're done now. We're
Thank
done
you
now.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you making time for this. Yeah.
Fundile, can I get permission? Spongile, can I get your numbers and please, Doc, on the other side, can you share them if you don't mind?
Sure. That actually I was
Okay.
gonna ask for that. I was gonna ask for that.
All right. I have contacts with all of you guys, so I'll just share all the numbers. And please
Okay.
look after my son there. He's in Boston.
Yes.
So you
Africa,
must know
respond to
that.
my text messages.
All right, I'm good. I've gone through the worst.
Okay, bye, Africa.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Everyone.
all right,
Thank
bye.
you.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you.